Claire is en route, so I'm sure she'll be joining us shortly. Thank you all so much for being here. I believe this is our fourth meeting of, third meeting of the calendar year for the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. I'm sorry, my kids haven't been at school yet this week, so I'm a little... So I would love if we could do a quick round of introductions before we get started. I'm Jessica Hembry. I'm on the board. I represent the South area, and this is my 5th year on the board. I'm in my 2nd term of board service, and I sit on the Finance and Facilities Committee. Mr. Sims.
David Sims. This is really my first full year, or I can't remember. I guess I did part of the last year. I represent the North area with Mario. Got 2 girls, one in 9th grade and one in the 5th grade.
Thank you. Angela?
I am Angela Ganser, and I represent the Northwest area. I have a 9th grader at Northwest and a 7th grader at Trail Ridge.
Mr. Stroud?
My name is Gary, and I represent the South area. I am a teacher in the district. Teach at Prairie Elementary School, and my 19th year in the district, so I'm really proud to be a Shawnee Mission teacher. And I've been a part of the committee since the very beginning, so I think we do a lot of really cool things.
I am Tyler Clubb, and I am the Director of Facilities.
I'm Russell Knapp, Chief Financial Officer, been here 26 years.
I'm David Stubblefield, and I'm the Deputy Superintendent.
Mike Schumacher, proud superintendent. It's my 10th year in the district, first year in this seat.
Shelley Trinham, I am the assistant to the superintendent and deputy superintendent and the board clerk.
Great.
Melissa Rooker, I'm here representing the Shawnee Mission East area. My husband, myself, and both of our children are Shawnee Mission East graduates, so happy to have been part of this committee since it was formed.
Great.
And I'm Mary Sinclair, and I'm late. Sorry about that. Thank you for getting us started. All right. Let's go ahead and jump in to our agenda. And thank you, Jessica, for that. All right, so our first agenda item is looking at the budget update and starting with the explainer for property taxes. And so I think each of you have, do we have hard copy? Sorry. We have digital. No.
It's on the screen, my apologies.
No, that's all right. And you all should have, I don't know if you have access to your laptops, if you have an email version of that. Yeah, that's great. Maybe making the font bigger would be helpful. Thanks. Okay, so I know we sent this maybe yesterday, so you might not have had a lot of time to take a look at the document. But this is our attempt at reflecting the conversation we had a couple of meetings ago about trying to provide a little bit more information to our community about what it is and how what those dollars are on the property tax statement that they get, how those dollars are used, what they even mean. And so this is an attempt to kind of put that down on at least a two-page document, and then share that through a variety of communication channels. So I thought what would be helpful is to go through this and see if you all have feedback, to see if we've hit the mark, if this is going to be if there are better ways to explain it, that kind of thing. So I don't know if the best way to go through this, Russ, is to have you walk us through maybe and just kind of explain the 2 pages, and then we can go from there, and I'll take notes on feedback.
Sure. So what we talked about in the prior meetings is the tax bill. So when I do get calls, it's usually when they get their tax bill in the mail and they see the various 512s and they don't quite understand that. So this little table, this would represent what you would see on your tax bill. The taxing entity is what would be there, the rate, and then the total taxes due. So what we did after that is explain what each one of those tax entities are, what it represents, and explains a little bit why it exists and how it came about. So who would explain the 512 bond. Obviously, we wanted to emphasize that this was a vote of the community. It passed successfully, 69%. So we wanted to point that out, that we just can't willy-nilly sell bonds without the district's or the community's approval. And then we give a little list there of what we're doing with the bonds. Capital outlay, again, that just explains what capital outlay is used for. Talks about state law caps it at 8 mils. School general fund talks about that it's the operations of the school districts. State law says you have to do 20 mils, all school districts across the state, so you don't really have a choice there. And then 512 unified, where it gets a little more complex, is that there's 4 different levies that make up the 512 unified, and we kind of explain each one of those as supplemental general, cost of living, special liability expense fund, and special assessment. And we try to give it just a short, simple explanation of that. How is property tax calculated? So we wanted to explain to them how we do that. I stole a little bit of this from Johnson County's website that explains that. So that first part came from their website, shows the math, and then and how you get for total amount of taxes collected. And then we rarely get questions on the revenue neutral rate, maybe just because it's so complex and nobody really understands it, but we don't take too many calls about that at all. But this is just a short little paragraph to explain the revenue neutral rate and a link back to the budget and finance page where those documents all live, the revenue neutral hearing, all those documents live on our budget and finance page. And so once we kind of finalize this would live on the budget and finance page. We would add some type of explanation, property tax explainer, and they can pull this document up. So, turn it back to you, Mary.
Okay, thank you for walking us through. Did anybody have a chance to look at it? I know it kind of came yesterday. Does anybody have some initial reactions or thoughts about the document? Is it the right level of detail?
I think it was pretty good. I mean, you can't explain everything in, much detail. You're going to go well beyond 2 pages, and once you go well beyond 2 pages, no one's going to read it, and then you've defeated the purpose of putting out the education. So I thought it was good. The only minor question I had, so you had no increase in that first section?
Yeah.
When you had a yes vote? So
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that was because there was one before that, is that correct?
Yeah, we're still paying off the 2015 bond referendum.
You might just say no increase from prior year or bond or something like that, maybe?
Oh, that might be a little too cryptic, the term no increase?
But I think what we're trying to say there is when we went out and told the public that we were going to sell bonds in 2021, we were estimating a small increase in the mill levy to, I think it was like a 0.7 mill levy increase. And we've never had to increase it so far. So the assessed valuation grew. The debt that we sold was low. So we've been able to maintain the 7.4. So that's what it was going into that bond referendum.
Yeah. No, but otherwise, I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
I like on the revenue neutral how you say, governing bodies that seek to have their budgets maintain the same purchasing power. I don't know it's subtle. I don't know if everybody will probably get it, but that's really the truth behind the revenue neutral. We've dealt with that with the library when somebody asked about that. Well, it's like, well, if you're keeping revenue neutral, you're cutting, is what you're doing, unless inflation doesn't apply to schools, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
So.
Inflation applies to all of us.
It applies to all of us, including entities, so, correct.
Okay, thanks.
Russ, I think when you go back up to the table, we see each individual rate broken out. Is it still true that Shawnee Mission out of the Johnson County districts has the lowest cumulative when you add all that up? that our total mill levy for 512 is actually the lowest in the county. Does that still hold true?
That's still true.
That might be a beneficial, if I were to add anything, it might be just a little bit of a comparison table.
Okay.
You have a slide that you've presented that gives
I
the
have, yeah.
comparison, yeah.
Do we need to indicate that it's the average, why $315,000 as an example? Should we kind of add in there or indicate that it's about the
Yeah,
average?
I think you had the word median,
Median?
and I took it out. Yeah, we can put that in there.
I mean, is there that catch why 315?
That might help. I assumed that to be the case, but I think so much of the school finance formula operates on the valuations. And so if we're talking about the median or an average, I think it could help to note that.
I think a lot of times when we do bonds, we do per $100,000 of home value. Am I right? When we've done bonds in the past, we talk about it in terms of like, so for every $100,000 of house, it would result in X amount of. So it's a different number than we typically use, so it might make sense to explain why we're using something different. I love this. My only piece of feedback was going to be how can we get it out to more people? Because it's going to take us, every voter's going to get that thing in the mail, but not every voter's going to come to our website to understand what it means. So I don't know if we can get something like this in the Inside Shawnee Mission or something else that goes really broadly, but I think it's a special patron that's going to get it in their mail and then go do their own research. So just figuring out how to get it out there more broadly, because I think it's super helpful.
Well, and that Inside Shawnee Mission is a really good publication. I know that neighbors on my street will ask me, and teachers will ask me, what are they doing with the bond money? And Inside Shawnee Mission has a lot of good information on that. It's really, really well done. And I tell them, do you read that magazine that comes in the mail from the school district? And they're like, oh, yeah, I can take a look at that. They just don't think, to look at it. So, even if anyone's listening to this, that's a really great resource to go out there. I don't know how we can make people read it more, but I always refer people back to that.
Remind us of the timing of the next issue.
It's 3 times a year. It's coming soon. I think it's in draft form.
And then, and we're heading into the budget cycle where you have to start having the public meetings on budgets and all of this. So I love that idea, because then somebody may receive it and still not consume it, but you get to say, hey, we gave this to every household in the district, in addition to it's available on the website.
Does anybody want more time looking at it, the next couple of days, and if you have any additional thoughts or feedback to forward it to Dr. Schumacher or myself? No?
I don't think I do. I think it
Okay.
looks pretty good.
Okay. Okay, great.
Mary, did you have any more follow-up on it?
I just had a question about, it was, I liked the introductory statement for each, like the capital outlay, taxes support, the general fund taxes support. So I don't know if we want to add like the bond, taxes support, rebuild, renovation, repair, something like that, before we go into the fact that it was approved, minor, And the only other thing I had a question about was like the number of schools. So I liked how we list that we've got 59 facilities, 5 schools that were rebuilt, other schools that have work done, so that people understand we have a lot of facilities to maintain and keep up. But I didn't know what the number, did our bond touch every single education center in some form or fashion, do we think? Or is that the point of what we want to say here? Because we have 5 elementaries and then, another 45, right? There are 49 education centers, elementary, secondary, and then the CAA, and, yeah, I don't know if that 41 is, does that exclude, like, the CAA and Horizons and those other facilities? Anyways, maybe we can talk, let's just make sure we have the right numbers maybe there. And I don't know how we,
The way that I read that is it's touching every educational center. Update on other 41 schools and educational centers. Yeah, we can check on that just to make sure. Have we done work to the CAA?
We did a parking lot expansion.
Parking lot, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, so there's going to be projects that
Right.
we'll just have to double check.
on the others.
Right.
Some of them were security, which would be every single
Yeah, would be
building, right? I
everything.
mean,
It would have, especially with we went through the master key system with the exterior doors and interior doors, it would have touched every building.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that was the only other part.
I don't know if it's, was that every elementary? We haven't touched every elementary, have we?
Well, I mean, you do security cameras, keyless entry upgrades, and then interior and exterior master keys. It would have had to touch every facility, and that goes all the way through the softball complex to soccer field.
Oh, I think that's really important to state it as having benefited every facility in the district. I think it's important to state it as having benefited every, yeah.
I know that we don't want to make this more wordy, but I do feel like, and I love the examples that you give for how the bonds are used. I think a few more examples or details, though, might make that personal connection. I don't want to say it sounds cold, because it doesn't. They're great things that are being done, but I don't know if there were just a few more examples you could throw in. Make playgrounds accessible, a few more, whine more about that. I don't know, just something to make it a little more personal and give that connection, because for a lot of people, this is probably going to go over their head. But if there's something they can see that they can relate to, that they like, something really positive that the district is doing, I think they might take more time to go in then and spend more time looking at it, so.
Okay, maybe some pictures or something of some of the,
So I was kind of thinking some pictures or a hyperlink to the finance and facilities reports. Maybe some things where we can streamline it, where we don't clutter up this document.
We do have a link there to the bond page.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You see that?
so maybe the link can be a photo montage or something like that. I don't know. Okay, all right, good feedback.
So on the, when you update, remind me, so you're taking, did you say that each school kind of gives a recommendation as to changes they'd like to make, kind of like, the weight room at West or North? Those came from, what, the principal and whoever's on, isn't that, am I getting that right?
Yeah, I mean, we sat down, so we had central office administrators, we had each building administrator, and it wasn't, each administrator created a team within their building, so it'd be different at each high school and middle school, but yes, went through the list of wants and needs, and worked through those with the available amount of money for each one. There was a different amount for a high school versus a middle school, but to answer your question, yes.
That may be, and once again, I think it'd get too wordy if you start adding that in there, but maybe that's something you put in the inside SMSD. Maybe not this one, since it sounds like it's almost done, but maybe the next newsletter or the next program where you're talking about, here are the, we've updated the 41 plus, and this is how we get to that.
The collaborative.
It's not just, it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
It's the principal, whoever else, whatever teachers get put on that's determined by the principal, or whatever that process is. Maybe that's something you can go through at some point, just saying, look, this is the process, this is how we determine what needs updated, and then we go from there, so.
Okay,
Just a thought.
that's great. Anyone else? Okay. All right, this was very helpful, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Knapp, for bringing this to life for us. Okay, our next agenda is legislative session updates. you want me to? Russ?
Well, the update that I'm aware of is the House approved House Bill 2007, which is the legislative budget, yesterday. So the general state aid amount that would fund the 4.3% CPI increase is in there. The sped amount that we've been telling the board that we thought was in there for 30 million, I believe got decreased to 10 million.
Really important caveat with that, 2.5 million of that 10 for this school year was sourced from federal ARPA funds, the ESSER funds. So next year's 10 million has to backfill. It's really only an increase of 7.5 million.
Which sounds familiar because that's the number that we were getting 2 or 3 years ago.
It's a nifty trick. Are there any other pieces of legislation you think are relevant for this group here to look at? There was a banking bill. Is that going nowhere fast, hopefully?
That's been, the cities, the municipalities have really engaged on that bill.
Do you want to explain it a little bit?
Well, it was the Banking Association working with the state treasurer on this bill to, what they do is called a first look. So they want cities, counties, school districts to do a first look at banks that are in their jurisdiction. And the first look is based, and they want to hard code a interest rate in there, an investment interest rate. And it's like 0.5% less than the treasury bill. And so if the bank can meet that interest rate, then that municipality has to give that investment to that bank versus going outside of the jurisdiction. That is not currently the case. We give a first look, but it's not that, like that reduction of that 0.5 percentage point. It's still the free market, whatever the capital interest rate is, we can go and invest that. And if they meet it, you can invest locally, which we do quite a bit. If not all of ours is kept locally. We use UMB Bank and a few others, but they all meet that rate. I think it's more obvious in your rural, smaller cities where the local bank can't meet that interest rate. And so they go outside, away from the local bank. And so there's that caveat to it. And then there's a collateralization, pledged security. So the law requires banks to pledge securities if they're holding public funds. And they got they were looking at doing it at the state level. So all municipalities, county, cities, our school districts could use the state pledge securities. I'm not sure I'm explaining that correctly. And so that went back and forth. There was hearings on that, and they've been negotiating that back and forth between the Banking Association, whoever's supporting that bill, and the cities. I think there's another hearing coming up in about a week or so.
And what was the kind of cost potential to a district like Shawnee Mission, or range of financial impact?
I don't know sure if it would have a cost for us. If our banks continue to bid the current market rate, I don't think we would see a loss. The other part of that is bond proceeds. So they wanted to lump bond proceeds in there. And the cities, the school districts said, no, we ain't doing bond proceeds, because that's when we sell the bonds and we sit on that money and we try and invest as quickly as possible so we can maximize our revenues. So when we have cost run-ups, we can use that locally. That would, if you're having a first look of less of a 0.5 percentage point, that would cost you revenue.
Is that still in the bill, or was that stripped out?
I think they're going to remove that. I think part of the negotiation is they were going to take bond proceeds off the table.
Okay.
We did testify against it about a week ago. And so the concern I think that we initially had was the fear of that free market, to make sure that local entities, not that we didn't want to partner with local entities, but to ensure that they felt a need to be competitive in the market. So that was kind of the crux of our testimony.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the only other kind of legislative piece was, we had some uncertainty in the federal funding level around the title programs. They were rescinded and then put back in place. And is that action that happened at the federal level something that you feel like, okay, we're good, that's not going to happen? Or is that still bringing a level of uncertainty to our funding process?
I think uncertainty is the right term. I don't know if anyone knows the extent in which that's going to play out. So when that executive order was initially issued, we circled around the table and kind of developed some internal plans, kind of a doomsday plan, so to speak. If we were to lose all of our federal funds for the Shawnee Mission School District, that's about $11.8 million annually. That's tied up largely, if not, well, not completely, but largely in people, salary and benefits. So about 170 FTE. I think I'm getting my numbers right. I'm going to go 170 FTE for that 11.8 million. So, those are high need positions. And so a lot of that is sped teachers, paraeducators, and we have a deep commitment to making sure that that continues. So we would have to have plans, and we do have some internal plans should those funds go away to absorb it, but that would be taken away from somewhere else. We have finite resources, clearly.
All right. And just for the benefit of everyone, putting that $11.8 million in context of our overall budget, it's not significant. But it goes to some really important places, I think.
Yeah, so it's what, 8% of our budget?
Right, but it would go directly impact on your operating funds. So if those federal dollars went away and we needed to continue those programs, it's coming out of your operating funds. You don't get to use capital or bond or any of those other funding sources. So it shrinks the, $280 million is our operating budget.
And it's probably good to remind people that we are still subsidizing our special education needs with operating funds because of the shortfall from the state and the feds.
What about school lunch program?
Specifically?
Federal funding?
Yeah, I think the indication we were getting from the state was that it wasn't going to impact school lunch program.
Yep.
But
crossing our fingers, yes.
Yeah, we're dealing with the same with our federal grants.
All right.
I would call attention to property taxes as a topic. There's a House position and a House position brewing, a Senate position passed. So today is the last day of the first half. It's known as turnaround. So bills cross to the opposite chambers for the second half of the session. But this is the halfway point. The Senate has passed, it's a constitutional resolution. So it's I don't know the number, but it's a property tax lid. Statewide, a hard cap, property taxes cannot increase more than 3% a year, which sounds good to a taxpayer who's looking at the paperwork that landed in the mailbox yesterday when you see the rate of increase for next year. But we lived in California for 18 years. Prop 13 was the nation's first property tax lid that passed, I don't know when, the 80s maybe. We came home to Kansas because of how restrictive it became. Our schools, our public schools in the area, we moved out of LA County Unified into a more suburban district because we thought we were getting comparable educational opportunities for our kids. The buildings were so insufficient for the population. We had twice as many elementary kids enrolled in our elementary school is we had classroom space, so it was all mobile classrooms. We had a high school that was operating, classes started at 7 in the morning and ran 11 or 12 hours of the day. The buildings were functioning with academic courses, and your student might have a gap in the center of the day, but they were trying to make sure that 5,000 high school students could attend the necessary academic time in a building built for 3,000. And we could not, it was the spring we moved back here was the third bond question in a row that failed because of the restrictions of Prop 13. It's based on the value of your house at the time of sale. So, you know, the elderly couple living next door is paying 1950s prices while you're paying today. Like, it is so unfair to taxpayers, and that is the plan the Senate passed effectively. The House is working on a much more nuanced plan that would do a 3-year rolling average, and there would be some limits to how high taxes, how the percentage of increase, but it wouldn't be the same hard cap. It sounds, from what I've seen, like the appetite on the House side is for their own version, and they will be working on that. So I don't know the status, probably irresponsible to say too much about it without knowing bill numbers and things like that, but these would be constitutional questions. If they pass the legislature, then they go to a vote of the people. I think if the general public has the chance to vote on the question of reducing property taxes, that probably passes in whatever form comes out. So I think those are really important pieces of legislation to keep an eye on.
All right, on that happy note.
Sorry.
If there are any other questions kind of about budget updates along those lines? Okay. Let's move on to project facilities and updates, and I'll look to Dr. Stubblefield to go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. I am going to turn it over to Tyler Clubb. He'll get us started, and I will chime in.
Okay, so today's slideshow is pretty much broke up just between bond projects first, and then we'll hit to the capital projects towards the end of this slide. But some updates, some finished products as well all the way through here, and we can go to the main graph. This is the Gantt chart. It's the timeline for all of it, and we keep moving it for each meeting 3 months, 4 months down the road. But I mean, you can see our red line, our timeline, and really at that point for the main projects, there's 2 out there, and remaining on the remodels, the new builds. And you see Tomahawk, we're going to wrap that up in July, so that's going to open fall of '25. And then a little blurb there for the demolition of Catherine Carpenter Elementary. So Tomahawk, just a brief, quick reminder for everybody, it's the DLR and J.E. Dunn. This is 79,000 square foot elementary rebuild on site. The students are currently at Indian Creek. Again, we're on schedule at Tomahawk, and this is going to open up in the fall of 2025. Some updated, just some progress pictures. So I just want to show you kind of the construction phase, but where we're at currently. But picture to the left is the restroom in those classrooms in the kindergarten, first, second grade pod. Ceiling grids in, lights are in, wall tiles on, plumbing stubbed through, and directly after this picture, the epoxy flooring was put down in all these restrooms. So there's phases through this whole project that you're going to have certain areas completely finished, and while we're wrapping up other areas. And then just quickly, that's the main gym. You see the sound panels on that quickly. I'm guessing 25-foot ceilings, but that's Tomahawks will be spread out there in the sound panels on that one wall. And then a standard classroom. We got the first base coat of paint on. You can see the caseworks going in. the grid, lighting, all that's in place.
Has the cold played a role in progress?
Not inside the building.
That's great.
Jay Dunn's done a great job with the schedule, and they know this, when we start and where they need to be at. But all the windows have been in for a long time. Those that haven't, there's plastic in that area, but there's heat, temporary heat inside the building to keep them rolling. It's the outside, and I really need winter to be over.
Yeah, they did a really good job of getting it wrapped before the really bad weather hit, so they were able to get all the windows in, and again, like Tyler said, it brought in imported heat, so they were able to continue working.
Okay, that is good.
Yeah,
50 next week, right?
that's right, let's go. And let's stay there, let's not drop back down. But and just real quick, library, on the picture on your left, you can see all the clear story lights. Will be plenty of daylight inside that space. Middle picture is just one of the group restroom pods, is just the corner there in the hallway. And you can see, the sheetrock's done, the mud's done, it's painted. We're just inside those as well. You saw a picture before of the progress of where they're at. And then the picture on the right, if you would zoom out, you could see the front doors to the left of the main entry, and that is the grand staircase going, and the walls behind that is the art room and the maker space, and then that staircase takes you upstairs to the secondary academic floor. Okay, in Shawnee Mission West, this, in my eyes, this is one of the ones we're going to say completed, is done. There's still closeout documentation that we have to follow up through and to finish the POs off, but this project's done, but this was an Insight and a
Kurt Novak?
New Kurt Novak construction project. And so it was an addition there on that north side of Shawnee Mission West, and about 4,500 square feet of space. We can go to the next pictures, and I'll show you exactly what we remodeled and added. So again, in the center, you can see the finished product. Upper left is the ground floor of that weight room, 40 yards, all turf through that area. There's a garage door on the far end that will go up, and if we were doing true 40-yard sprints, you can just keep going right outside the building. And then the bottom right, that would be the second floor, more of a training, open space, aerobic room, et cetera. But bottom left picture is what used to be the weight room. That is now renovated into a new wrestling space for the West program. And then the old Wesleyan room is where the top right picture comes into play, and this is the new weight room. And so it's kind of, the addition was 2 stories, 4,500 square feet, but the weight room and that wall, there's 40-foot wide opening now going into that addition, and it's a big T-shaped workout, aerobics, weightlifting, sprinting, calisthenics type space for them.
Tyler, can I ask a question on that one?
Uh-huh.
A number of our high schools have done a very similar renovation. Am I right here? How many,
So
North
North
did a weight room?
North did an addition with their weight room, West, and then South did like a remodel and moved them around. We didn't do an addition at South for it, but we took
So
over
a theme
some
of
spots.
these, as we're talking about how we
Yep.
decide what we do, a theme is that many of our high schools did opt to kind of
They
improve
need-
some of their
Get the
athletic
weight rooms out of the
facilities.
basement, and they wanted a new spot for that.
Awesome, thank you.
Tyler, if memory serves, the things like cheerleading and dance, and there are all kinds of activities that get to use these new spaces, right?
Yes.
And classes.
In classes, yep, yeah, 100%, yep. There's, just to be clear though, but cheerleading can use the second floor, but there was, when we were going through design, there were certain things they couldn't do, like two on, and pyramid up. There's only so much headroom, but again, they can use it for the other stuff. Okay.
I'm sorry, I
Yep,
have
no,
to
go ahead.
ask, when is Northwest going to be remodeled?
So Northwest was first or second year of the bond. And it was we can go back and if you
The
want.
mall.
But it was the mall
mall
area.
entryway.
And we did the whole,
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
Ground
I was
floor.
just curious about the whole athletic area, if that was going to happen anytime in the future.
not this time. There are some athletic improvements on the docket, but there's nothing inside the building. But we've got some work outside on the athletic side.
Perfect, thanks.
Yep. Indian Hills, this would be a Hollis and Miller J. Dunn. And it was, the building really needed a large classroom type space. And we were able to do, I think it's about a 1,600 square foot addition. And then here's some finished photos of it as well. And this one is completed in our eyes. They're using it. We opened up at winter break. So when they came back for second semester, this was ready to go. But either way you look at it, you can stand up, so the large picture, you're standing up above the addition and looking down upon it. And so there's seating there, I think right now for about 65. There's breakout space, there's one-on-one learning areas.
Yeah.
And
Conference room.
Conference room, much needed, another set of stairs from right outside that main office hallway down below as well. And yeah, so now onto the capital projects. And so some rundowns. And so get ready to answer one of your questions earlier, but the first one here is the soccer complex. And so that complex, just so everybody knows, has 4 fields. We've always had a turf, one of those fields were turf.
Softball.
At the softball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're at. I'm sorry, softball. But field 1's always been turfed. This project's going to do fields 2, 3, and 4. So when we're finished, 100% turf at the complex. And then another turf project at 3 and 2. And before I go, I'm going to apologize, but we did 3 fields at 3 and 2, and somehow I missed field 7 on this slide. So my apologies, but there's 3 baseball fields at the 3 and 2, fields 1, 2, and 7. It's the infield turf project with partnership there with 3 and 2. And then on that same theme, each high school at some point, each one's a little bit different. I mean, East with their combo field has had one, but the other 4 fields where they practice at on site at the high schools are doing the same as we did at 3 and 2, and including that infield turf at those locations. And the only way that, once we talked about this and scheduled it out, but all we could get to sign off on was they could guarantee South could get done this year if we did that. And so before the start of baseball season. So it goes back to, I really need winter to be over because it's been at a standstill for about a month, unfortunately. But I mean, the ground's frozen and can't really spread gravel and do drain tile on top of snow.
Are you willing to go on the record that they'll be ready for the first day of practice?
We will be ready for the first day of practice with either Plan A or Plan B.
Oh, okay.
I talked to a baseball parent this morning who was part of the Shawnee leadership group that was here, and he was very excited about the 3 and 2 complex.
Yeah.
A lot of improvements. And there's a lot of paint, foul poles, and new netting, and
Batting cages.
Yeah, there's a lot to, other than just a turf infield, but there's a lot of improvements that took place at 3 and 2.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Why did we start at South and not a different school?
Needs, you go through and prioritize it, and if you can hit it with the needs and
Availability.
location and availability. So, I mean, I know they all need it, but there's just, example, there's certain spots, certain locations at a particular high school that if we started there, we would lose
Parking.
150 parking stalls, and you just can't do it during the course of the school year.
Yep.
But we can get it taken care of over this summer to where it's ready for next year.
Perfect.
Yeah, so more capital. So it is elementary furniture cycle. So with this, 34 elementaries in our district, 11 of them now are brand new. Through that rebuild process, those have new furniture, right? And so over the next 3 to 4 years, the remaining elementary schools are going to get new furniture. And so this part of this capital cycle that we'll do yearly. And you can see on here, Blue Jacket Flint, Mill Creek, Overland Park, and Prairie will be up for this summer replacement. And then just quickly, just our yearly capital flooring cycle. So everybody knows, we partnership, hire an architect, we go through, assess our schools, let them know where we're having our concerns with failures, and we go through, assess it, give them a budget and work off that and bid it out and replace it. But it's just a picture of last year, and that's the entryway, new Nora flooring at Shawnee Mission West. And I like those TVs in the background. You see this? See what's displayed on the screen here? Yeah. And then two big needed capital projects in the way right now is the district-wide LED lighting package. Excuse me. But that is currently out as an RFQ on the streets, narrowing this down and trying to find a vendor to achieve what we need. And looking at like breaking this down into 3 phases. But I mean, if there's a light fixture in the district, it's changed out from incandescent or high pressure sodium or whatever it is to LED. And so we can hit the high schools first. Next year, work through this, hit the middle schools, and then phase 3 would be the remaining elementary schools in the district.
What are we seeing in terms of pricing, inflation, potential, are you seeing kind of we had a pretty big spike in our construction costs, and that's remained, it's leveled out, yes? Are we seeing any?
On construction stuff,
Yeah.
it shoots up like a rocket and kind of falls back down like a feather, right? And we know where they're at. I think you can do a really good budget on what it's going to cost to do construction right now, but it is 2025 numbers are 30, 40% higher than 2018, 2020 for sure.
All right, so it
And-
jumped 30% and it's staying at 30%, but it's not going above that
Yeah,
for
no,
now.
it's right there. And you're still going to have, a 3 to 5% inflation as you normally would per year. And I think it's back down to that.
Good.
But that initial, that 2020, 2021 construction, it shot up every bit of 30%.
Yeah, and then I think it also will depend on, some of the types of materials that we're using as well. Some materials may be going up in cost and some may be going down in cost as well, so.
Okay. All right.
And the other one's the HVAC controls. And I think we passed this and had a little discussion on the last board meeting. But yeah, this is a district-wide platform for all of our HVAC equipment. And there's a lot to touch. And 5.8 million square feet of thermostats and control modules and web-based platform. Much needed.
What, how much?
5.8 million square feet of educational space and facilities.
I've not heard that stat
I've never
before.
heard that number before. I like it.
I don't want to jump the gun, but you might hear that a few times next Monday as well.
Wow.
And we don't want to step on our own toes here
Right.
because this is going to be a presentation on Monday's board meeting as well, so
Okay.
keep
Great.
you guessing a little bit.
We got a sneak peek.
There's just a little
This
sneak
is,
peek.
yeah, a tiny one.
Okay.
And reminder, Catherine Carpenter demo, this is, it's in the progress. I mean, it's bid out. We know who our contractor is, but unfortunately, paperwork on this is taking longer than we anticipated. I may have jumped the gun and anticipated January to start demo, but still haven't received all the permits needed to do a demolition there. But we're on track, and I can see us in a couple weeks for sure. We'll be on site and fenced off and tearing it down.
Is the plan to sell that property after we demo it, or are we going to try to reuse it?
Not at this point. I think at this point, we're in conversations that some of that information is going to be fleshed out and discussed in one of the strategic plan committees, one of the action teams. And so they'll bring some recommendations back to us, and obviously we want to be mindful that the strategic plan guides a lot of this work. So we'll listen to that and then make the appropriate decisions.
So it's like, Tyler, when you say that we have a contractor and we're waiting for permitting, all of that's just for the sake of demoing all of that is just related to the demolition, nothing about what comes next?
Correct. Yes,
Okay,
yep,
so at this
all
point-
regards there. And it's working with the city, and then working with our utility companies to go through and get on their list. And it's just a paperwork trail that you would hope could potentially make 4 to 6 weeks. It's turned into like 6 to 12, but waiting list. But we're on it. It's all there. We just need that rubber stamp and final approval for it.
Got it, thank
Yeah.
you.
And Tyler and I had the opportunity to go and speak to that community, which is the Woodstock neighborhood, and we went to one of their neighborhood planning meetings, and we had a chance to get feedback from them and kind of discuss what the district was thinking and get their feedback on what they would like to see, some of the safety concerns that they've had with that building being there, and overall, just really positive in terms of kind of either what's next or just the fact that that building was becoming kind of an eyesore in their community. So a lot of positive feedback from that conversation.
I think they're just happy to see it turn into something. Something at some point.
Yeah.
You've been hearing a little bit about that? Yeah. All right.
And there's in year 5, phase 5 of our HVAC plan, just the locations for the major work where we're going to be at. And don't think of it as some of these locations could have a complete change out. Some could just be 4 or 5 rooftop units at that spot, but that's phase 5.
Centegix, this is me. So just an update on where we are. If you are not aware, Centegix is a safety solutions company that is committed to creating safe work environments. And we contracted with them to bring the crisis alert badging platform to the district. And that is just a single button activation alert that alerts local responders, can alert a team of people in that building, depending on the need. One of the ways that we kind of talk about it within the district, or what Centegix tells us, is if you press it 3 times, that's a local building response. And so the building administrator, maybe a nurse, maybe another teacher's having an issue in their classroom, that they can alert people in the building. And then you also have a campus-wide alert, where if you press it 8 times in a row, that kind of alerts people at the district office, our chief of police, and then also local authorities. And those are things like if you need a lockdown for your building, or if there is an intruder in the building, those kind of high, again, just really active issues or concerns that rise to a really high level. So we're really excited to be able to bring that to each and every staff member in the district. So every employee in the Shawnee Mission School District will have a badge with that capability.
And that's in addition to our ID badge for the doors, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could they also invest in, and I was talking to you about this, I can tell you how many teachers, and you probably know, that lose their ID cards because they fall off, that little plastic part breaks. And it'd be nice if they, we got some nice lanyards or something to really hold those on, because I know they're going to cost you some money.
HR team has a bunch of those.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
need
we have a bunch of
lanyards.
those. Yeah.
That's not an issue.
Okay, cool. Well, like nice, one.
Nice
Oh,
ones.
come on,
Is that the caveat?
Not the janky ones we're currently providing.
The lanyards HR has comes up to here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I need.
So we have inadequate lanyards, okay. All right. I'll mention that to Dr. Higgins.
What is that total number of personnel?
Oh, my gosh.
4,000?
5,000 maybe? 5, I think. It's between 4,000 and 5,000 employees. Every
Rule 10 and everyone, you'll get one?
Every employee in the Shawnee Mission School District will have one.
About 4,200.
Plus 8, or plus 7.
Yes.
Plus 7.
That's
Team
right.
of 8, plus 7.
We meet with Centegix every week, kind of talk about progress. They are completing installation of most of the hardware that goes along with Centegic. So there are beacons that kind of connect the badge to the system. And then also they have strobes that they put in buildings to alert you if it's a certain color of strobe. Then that will tell you if it's red, then maybe it's a fire drill. If it's blue, it's a tornado or something like that. So all of that hardware is being installed in every one of our buildings and on all of our campuses as well, including playgrounds and if they're athletic fields, those items are being placed in those areas. So that is moving in a really positive direction. Currently, we are on track. People always ask me what the timeline is, and I say that we're going to have a badge in every employee's hand before the end of the school year, so that we can kind of test that, and then leading into the next school year, there will not have to be a whole lot of training, because we will have training for every employee that is going to have a badge, and we have a training schedule that we're currently working on with Centegics. And they will actually come out and kind of do a train-the-trainer model. So building, what we call building responder teams, will get that training, and then they will then train the rest of their staff in their buildings. And we're really looking forward to it, and they've been great partners with us. Anytime there's a little hiccup or a hurdle, we get on a call and it gets resolved pretty quickly. So we're looking forward to that partnership.
That's great.
Can I ask a question, Dr. Stubblefield? Because it's
Yes.
a question I got from a parent that I didn't know the answer to, which was if a building has like a eight push event, does it notify parents and family members? Like how, well, I guess not necessarily.
No, that 8-button press will come to district officials, and.
I know. I was like,
And them filling up the parking lots.
Yeah, no.
I don't know, but I don't think.
That only district officials and law enforcement will get that alert.
And then will it automate the like PA system building on
Yeah,
lockdown?
that's a great question.
Asking for
Yes,
notification.
this system gets tied into our intercoms. So whatever alert that happens, that's the campus-wide alert. If it's a lockdown or if it's a fire or something like that, that message gets tied directly into the intercom system.
Okay,
And
so it just reduces our points of failure between something is
Absolutely.
happening.
It's
and the people who
automated.
need to know, and
Yeah.
people are responding appropriately. Okay.
Yeah, it really automates our system and so that there aren't any, there's no miscommunication that takes place.
Thank you.
Because if they do 3 or 8, there's no, can they talk to the teacher that does it? Are they talking to somebody in the office or somebody? You just know something's happening and somebody's going to go check it out? Is that the way
Yeah,
it
so
works?
there's a platform. So if it's a 3-button alert, which is
Yeah.
in the building,
Right.
those responders will have a platform on their computer or on their phone that shows them exactly what location that's taking place.
Okay.
And then those building responders will then go to that classroom for help.
And then
Yeah,
you'll figure out
Yeah, and then you'll
what's
figure out-
happening,
yeah,
and then you can
it's-
figure out if it's a lockdown or
Yeah, it's
fire or
it's
something.
not a system where there's
Yeah.
a two-way communication between the teacher and whoever gets the response.
It's just the way.
It's in
that-
addition to, we're not replacing our walkie-talkies that we already have. The intercom
Yeah, that's a
system
great
takes
point,
place.
Tyler. We've always have had conversations when we were bringing Centegics on board that this is not replacing any of our safety and security systems. This is just an addition, an extra layer of safety and security that we feel is needed.
Any other questions?
Any other questions or
Okay,
concerns?
that is great.
All right, thank you.
What do we know from other districts that have used that system? Has there ever been an accidental trip of the 8-alarm?
Yes.
Okay. and
There will be.
Do we
Yeah,
have that
there's going to
feedback
be.
now?
Yeah, there's going to be those false alarms. It takes some time to work out the
Okay.
kinks and people start getting used to it. And
Okay.
but again, those are going to happen, and we'll just have to make sure that we're communicating appropriately.
Okay.
And there's some really good data, there's some really good data that comes out of the 3-button pushes too. That we're able to kind of analyze problem areas.
Yeah.
situations like that?
Yeah, that's another great point of emphasis. When we decided to go with Centegix, part of that was on those 3-button presses, we'll be able to kind of collect data on areas of high need. If it's a classroom that we're responding to quite often, are there extra supports that we can put in that classroom? Conversations with that classroom teacher about, with the principal. And so really kind of aiding in that support for staff and students, I think is going to be a really valuable piece. And I think that's kind of what we've heard from our neighbors as well.
I think I would just note one thing you shared, Dr. Stubblefield, when this came before the board, is I feel like you hear about this and your head automatically goes to like active shooter or really high intensity event inside of a school environment. But what was it, like 95+% of times that these are used, it's sort of a medical event inside of a classroom. It's a student who needs some extra care and the teacher needs some extra help. It's kind of easy for your head to go to active shooter, but there's actually the vast majority of these pushes will not be that. Obviously not be that situation.
Yeah, and one of the things where we felt really good was there was a lot of information about the medical part of it, where a staff member or a student was having a medical emergency. And again, with these response systems, time is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. So the quicker we can get medical aid, the quicker we can alert someone of what's going on, obviously the better chance that person has. So absolutely right. The majority of the time, it's not going to be those really high alert situations. It'll be more of the student that needs some care, teacher having a medical emergency, student having a medical emergency, maybe an altercation in the school. So those are all things that we're going to feel really good about in terms of getting the right people there faster.
Yeah, and as a teacher, I can tell you this is going to be great because the old way of doing it is if a student's in crisis, you have to go over and hit the intercom button.
Yeah.
And then the student knows somebody's coming, then that elevates them. Or you have to get on your radio if you got one. Then everybody in the school who hasn't turned off their radio, all the classrooms are hearing it. This way, if you have a student that's needing assistance, you can just go ahead and hit it and continue talking with that student, knowing that help is coming. And it just is a really nice way of saying, if I need help, I have it. And it's, and in a way too, it's just real, the kids, even the other kids in the classroom don't know that you're calling, which is really nice too. Because everybody knows when you hit that intercom button, somebody's in trouble. Because, so they would know. There'd be times you would go tell someone, go hit the intercom button for me real quick. She couldn't leave right there. You were there. You had to keep the classroom safe. So this is going to be a really amazing tool for us.
Yeah, the conversations that we've had specific to that, Gary, have been, we want to de-escalate and not escalate a behavior. And so that ties in exactly what you were talking about.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. I think, and Jessica, your point's really valuable to understand. Okay. Does anybody have thank you both for more? We have more?
Just one last.
Excellent.
Yeah, just an FYI, but there was some conversation about how good the bond page was on the website.
Yes.
With all the updates, and so just FYI, we do have a link now, and it's going to show all of our capital improvement projects.
Our homework assignment is complete.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, and you've already got it going. All right, I love it. Way to go, guys. Yeah. I think even just that, people go, okay, why is there two? Just even having the two pieces helps people understand these are two different funds, and why are they, and why do we need them? And thank you. That's awesome. All right.
I was going to share, in part for you, Tyler, that I got to go to Deemer a couple weeks ago. I think a lot of folks here actually got to go and tour John Deemer Elementary when it was first redone. It is a beautiful building, and it was great to walk through it when it was a brand spanking new building, but so much better to walk through it when it was full of kids, because I happened to be there. I know for folks that don't remember, we did that one a little bit differently. There's classrooms with a kind of communal space and restroom in between the classrooms. and each classroom has a door and a garage door. And I remember walking through and thinking, I wonder if they're ever going to use these garage doors. Because if I were a teacher, I would just want to keep my classroom closed. It seems easier to manage. But I happened to be there during their market day where their second grade students were, each of them had a little business they were running. Most of it was fingernail polish. So, but they were using the heck out of that space at John Deemer. I mean, there were kids in and out, all the garage doors open. It was the 100th day celebration in kindergarten. First grade had come together, all dressed as little old people for 100th day celebration, dressed as 100-year-olds. And it was really fantastic to see that building like in full swing, being used like to the hilt,
Yeah.
to the max.
Jessica, thank you for acknowledging that. I would say that Principal Pumphrey has done a tremendous amount of work in that collaboration and having conversations with staff about the use of that, and it has gone up a great deal in terms of from that first time they were in that space. So, yeah, kudos to him.
Great. Any other questions about what we've talked about today? Or questions you want to bring to an agenda for upcoming meetings? Anything on the top of your head? Our next meeting is scheduled for April 10th. So Russ, can I put you on the spot? Can you think about what, I think, Melissa, you mentioned that our budget workshops will start pretty quick here, presentations for the board to hear how the progress development is kind of rolling out. Where will we be? What will we have heard between now and April 10th in terms of that?
Legislator's last day is April 12th.
Yes, sine die, but the session end date is March 28th.
March 28th. So we'll go with April 12th, just in case. Second board meeting in April, we'll do capital outlay budget workshop to the board.
Okay,
And then the first in May would be operating funds.
okay.
So I don't know if we would want to get ahead of what we present at the board meeting on April 10th.
Would it,
Probably not, but I just think it's helpful to think about, maybe pieces, but I think it's helpful to think about how this group is meeting and where we're going to be at in terms of budget workshop.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we can end our meeting, and everyone has about 20 minutes back in their day. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see y'all again in a couple weeks.
And we have school tomorrow, right?